everybody, I'm Celia.
And I'm Caroline, and we're from Animal Tales Mid-South. We bring the program to you wherever you are.
Just like this one here today. Today we have a great program called Fantastic Creatures and Where They're Found. We're going to travel all over and explore where these fantastic creatures are found. So we're going to take you on an adventure all around the world. Are you ready, Caroline?
I'm ready.
Let's go. All right, so today we're going to be looking at this map and the animals, the fantastic creatures and where they're found. One of the cool things about this program is I'm going to be giving you hints and clues about where to find these animals. Now be thinking about the map and be thinking what kind of continent you think the animal belongs to. So, Caroline, tell me about some animals that you might find in your backyard.
Some animals that I see are the raccoon.
Ooh, a raccoon, that's super fun.
If I get up early in the morning, I can see deer in my backyard as well.
Man, I hope some of you guys get to see deer in your backyard.
And I also see rabbits sometimes.
Oh, yeah, and little baby bunnies this time of year. Okay, so all of those animals could be found in your backyard, but you didn't name our next guy. Are you ready to find out who he is?
Yes, I am.
All right. So here's our friend now. Where do you think this guy's going to go, Caroline?
Well, if this is a king snake, like I'm thinking, I'm going to say he's from North America, which is where we're from.
Great job. You're right. He is. He's a California king snake. A California king snake is from North America, just like us. Now, this guy right here, this is my friend Elvis. Elvis is a California king snake. He lives out west in the western states, California, Utah, Nevada, Arizona. If you think about it, all of those states are very dry and hot. And that's the perfect climate for this particular kind of king snake. Now, king snakes are really cool. One of the cool things about king snakes is that they can eat other snakes. So they actually have been known to eat rattlesnakes. They are immune to rattlesnake venom. So they are a good snake to have around because they can eat other snakes. They also eat small rodents, lizards, frogs, and they love eggs. Now, this guy right here, if you notice, a California king snake has a very distinct striped coloring. This guy right here is not the only kind of king snake, though. There's about 51 different varieties of king snakes, all of which are constrictors, so they are able to give their food a nice gentle hug, right? Now, king snakes are super docile, very easy to take care of, so they're really popular in the pet trade. Lots of pet snakes out there are also king snakes. This guy right here, we named him Elvis because, you know, Mid-South Animal Tales is located in Tennessee. And in Tennessee, we had the king of rock and roll. So we thought of this guy as the king of snakes since he can eat other snakes. And he's one of the only kinds of snakes that does that. Now, if you'll look at him, if you'll notice that he is a reptile. Reptiles are cold-blooded. Reptiles start out their life as an egg, and reptiles have scales on their body. So over a period of time, as Elvis grows, his skin grows too, and so he sheds off his skin. The average lifespan of a king snake is about 15 to 20 years, and about 3 to 4 feet long. If I lay Elvis out like this, you can see he's pretty much full grown, and he'll probably just get a little bit thicker as he gets older. Everybody always wants to know, how old is Elvis? I really can't tell you how old he is because when we got him at Animal Tales, he was already grown. All right, but we've owned him for about 3 years. Elvis is a great snake. He's super gentle and laid back, and that's part of the reason why he makes a really good Animal Tales animal ambassador. Now, We've got him up here in North America. Are you guys ready to head down south and see what we can find? Come on, let's go.
Like Celia said, we're going to travel down south to below North America. Now this continent, while it can be warm at the top, it's actually the closest continent to Antarctica. So let's think about that. It can be hot and it can be cold. It has rainforests, but it also has mountain ranges.
I'm going to guess, since you said south, we're going to South America.
That's right, South America, which is where our friend, the chinchilla, is found.
Oh, I'll put the chinchilla in the Andes Mountains.
That's right. The Andes Mountains actually run on this side of South America. And that's where our friend, Mr. Frostbite, lives. Now, chinchillas have so many unique things about them. The first one that's most noticeable is their fur. Now, if you were here, you would be able to feel a dense and soft, thick fur that almost feels like velvet. And the reason why it feels like that is because of their follicles. They're a little bit different than ours. So if you look at your arm, you can see one hair per follicle. And that's what we have, and most people have, and most animals have. The chinchilla is different because it has 60 to 80 hairs per follicle. That means that it has 60 or 80 times as many hairs as you have, which makes it super soft and dense. Now this is unique, but it also has some drawbacks. One of them is that they can't shower every day or every other day like we do. Chinchillas can't get their fur wet or else it'll create mold like on a sloth. So instead they have to bathe in something else. Now, Frostbite, because he lives in the mountains, he gets to bathe in volcanic ash and take a dust bath to clean himself. And that way it cleans his fur without getting wet or matted. Now his fur, a lot of people over the years have noticed how cool it is, and they used to make coats out of these guys, but we don't want to tell Frostbite that. Now they don't as much because they were once endangered, and now they're on the vulnerable species list. This means that you can't hunt these guys anymore and make them into coats. Now Frostbite is a herbivore. That means he eats fruits and vegetables, and he finds these when he goes out at night because this guy is nocturnal. That means that he's awake during the night, and that's when he eats, that's when he has his full day. You can tell he's nocturnal because he has a couple cool adaptations that help him survive at night. The first one is this big fluffy tail. This tail helps him to balance. When he can't see everything clearly, it's kind of like a balance beam. Then you have his really, really long whiskers, and those help him get around at night. He can feel with those, and as you can see, they're moving all about. And then you have his ears. He has veins that go all the way to the tippy top. And his ears are also really neat because the blood helps circulate through his ears to help keep him cool if he ever gets a little too warm with his really fluffy coat. Chinchillas are often traded as pets because of their cute little faces, but they are nocturnal, so they can stay up all night looking for food, making some really fun noises, and even running on wheels that sometimes people have in their enclosures. Now that's all I have for Frostbite, but we're not leaving South America just yet. We still have some more animals we're going to find in South America.
All right, Caroline, you told me about somebody in the mountains. We're still in South America. What do you think our next friend could be?
Well, looking at, since this was in the mountains, and this is probably more of a savanna type area, I'm going to say it might be a reptile.
You're absolutely right. With me, Tim the tegu.
And he matches his picture perfectly.
You're right, Argentina. This guy right here is a tegu. Tegus actually can live in a few different habitats. They can live in the rainforest, they can live in the desert regions, and they can live in the savannas, just like Caroline said. But they're found in South America. Tegus, though, unfortunately, have been an invasive species. Several people have had pet tegus, and they let them go down south in North America in the wonderful state of Florida. And what happens when people buy a pet, kind of like Tim, and they have them in their house, and they're great at first, But Tim, when he's full grown, he gets to be 3.5 to 4 feet in length. And while he's one of the more intelligent of all of the tegus, he can learn his name, he can learn to be litter box trained, and they say that they can actually form a bond with their owner. Sometimes people decide that it's way more lizard than they wanted to have in their house, so they decide to let them go. That's how we end up with invasive species in tropical places like Florida. It's not good because there's natural lizards that live in Florida, and the tegu will start to eat all of the food that the natural lizard needs, and only one of them will be able to survive. Now, if you look at Tim, you'll see right here on the side of his head, he has actually got ear holes because lizards have ear holes. He does have a forked tongue though, which is super cool. And if you notice, he's not sticking his tongue out because he's being rude. He's sticking his tongue out because he's checking out if there's a snack around. Tegus are very easy to feed. He'll eat just about anything in captivity. In the wild, they're mostly carnivorous, but they will eat some fruits and vegetables so they are called opportunistic omnivores. So they'll eat fruits and vegetables if they have to, but they prefer meat. One of Tim's favorite foods is actually eggs. And if you look at him, he does a great job of climbing trees in the rainforest. You can look at his claws and see his claws are super long and sharp. Those claws help him climb the trees. Also, if we look at the pattern of his scales, we'll notice that he would kind of look a lot like tree bark, wouldn't he? Now, Tim, while they would make a decent pet, it's not something that I would recommend because when he's full grown, 3.5 to 4 feet long, that's a pretty big lizard to have roaming around your house, isn't it? All right, guys, so we've got our friend here, Tim, the black and white Argentinian tegu, and he's not the only animal that we're going to see today that's from South America. Are you guys ready to move on up and see what else we can find?
For this next animal, we're going to stay in South America, but this animal can also live in Central America. You have any idea what that animal could be?
Could be a snake in the rainforest.
It could be a snake, but she's also in my carry-on bag right here. What do you think that could be?
Well, then it must be a mammal.
Must be. And do you recognize her?
Oh,
It's Sadie.
it's Sadie. Sadie here is a kinkajou.
That's right.
We saw some kinkajous one time when we visited Costa Rica, so I'm going to put her right there in Central America.
So like Celia said, she is a kinkajou, and I'm going to have Celia stay here and feed Sadie just a little bit because she's nocturnal, and right now it's not nighttime, and so we're going to feed her just a little bit. Now, as she's eating this, I want you to take a close look. This is a really neat adaptation that kinkajous have, and if you can see, she's drinking the honey with her tongue, and her tongue is super long, up to 5 inches long when she's full grown. That's a lot longer than my tongue. So she sticks her tongue down in there, and it's just like a honeycomb. And in the wild, she would live in the tops of the rainforest where she would find honeycombs, and she would be able to drink them just like this because of her long tongue. She also uses that tongue because she's a pollinator. Pollinator means that she can spread the seeds all around to help plants grow. Oh, and she's going to eat that banana whole. She's also an omnivore, so she can eat fruits, vegetables, insects, and a little bit of meat. Her favorite is actually chicken eggs, just like the tegu. The banana is also a good favorite, fan favorite for most exotic animals. She's gonna just keep eating that, and as she holds on to it, you can see her really cool claws. She has claws kind of like a bear. Her nickname is actually the honey bear, and those help her to be able to climb trees. Like I said, she lives in the tops of the rainforest, and those hands help her climb. And she's got some claws that help her dig as well. Those can help her do a number of things. They can help her dig in the ground to find insects, climb onto trees and hold onto the bark, or just hold her dinner like this.
Look how she's holding on to you, Caroline.
That's right, she's gonna hold on to me like a tree. And if you can see her tail Her tail is prehensile. That means she can use it as a fifth arm. So I'm going to let her chew on that, and I'm going to show you her tail. Now, her tail is actually wrapped around my back right now, but I'm going to let her hold the banana, and I'm going to show you this tail of hers. It's prehensile, which means it can act as a fifth arm. Lots of monkeys have this ability as well. It helps her balance. We switched snacks because she got a little bit excited when another animal made some noise, but we're going to give her a Twizzler. These guys can actually eat a lot of sugar. Because her nickname is the honey bear, she's used to eating tons and tons of sugar a day. And so we supplement that with little treats that she really likes. We use Twizzlers actually here at Animal Tales to help cut her nails. She can hold on to that Twizzler and we're able to clip her nails without her, running around and stuff. Kinkajous are nocturnal, just like the chinchilla. And so she's awake at night and you can kind of tell from her humongous eyes. Those eyes help her see at night, just like these other adaptations that she has, like her prehensile tail, her bare hands, and her ability to smell really well. She's called a honey bear because she can get into a honeycomb and the bees actually can't sting her. You want to know why? Because of this really thick, dense fur. If you can see this fur, it's super duper thick, and the bees can't sting her because it is so thick. But she can still get the honey. And a lot of people say she looks kind of like a baby sloth. And even though her nickname is the honey bear, she's actually related to something in your backyard, the raccoon. The raccoon is a part of the Pernicidae family, which is related to the cacomissal, ringtail cat, and other species like the coatimundi and our lovely kinkajou Sadie. So just like her friends, the raccoon and the coatimundi, she doesn't make a great pet. And she kind of is very smart. So she is able to get out a lot of cages and use those hands for things she's not really supposed to be getting into. She can also live up to 40 years, which is a really long time for an exotic animal. Since Sadie's getting a little bit antsy, I'm going to put her back to bed in that carry-on, and we're going to move on to the next continent.
All right, so we're going to leave North America, South America, and Central America, and we're going to head on over to one of these other continents. This next animal is found in dry, rocky areas, sometimes rock walls or rock embankments. What kind of animal do you think it could be?
I think it could be a lizard.
You know what? You're absolutely right. Lizards like to hide in rocky embankments and up against crevices, but guess what this guy is?
Ooh, that's not a lizard.
It is actually a lizard. This is the European legless lizard.
That's why he matches this picture.
So this guy right here, the European legless lizard, and like Caroline was fooled, he does look a lot like a snake. But one of the cool things that we're going to talk about with Boris here is how he is definitely not a snake. So this guy is a legless lizard. He's related to the glass lizard that lives down south of us in Florida. And if you look at him, there's some things about Boris that tell me that he's definitely not a snake, even though he looks like a snake because he's long and he kind of seems like he would slither. He has ear holes. Ear holes are where he can hear from, and snakes don't have ear holes. If you remember, Tim the tegu had those circles, those ear holes, just like Boris. Also, it's not nighttime, so we're not going to see Boris with his eyes closed, but he can close his eyes. And the reason that you can close your eyes is because you have eyelids, external eyelids. That's one of the things that lizards have that snakes do not. He is a reptile, just like Caroline said. He's cold-blooded. He has scales on his body, so therefore he sheds, and he starts out his life as an egg. Now, one interesting fact about this guy is that he looks really long. Boris is full grown, and he grows to be about 3 feet in length, so he's pretty much full grown. He might grow a little bit longer, but if you notice right here, at this point right here, everything from my hand down is actually his tail. And one of the cool things about lizards is that they can trick their predators. When the predators are searching for a tasty snack and they grab a hold of a lizard like Boris, they grab a hold of the thing that's moving. His tail will be moving when he's trying to get away. They grab a hold of the tail and he can actually detach his tail from his body. Now, everywhere I go, kids always say, can we see that happen? And no, even though it would be super cool to catch on video, we don't want to see Boris drop his tail, because once his tail falls off, it doesn't just grow back overnight like a magic trick. It takes a period of time, and his tail will never be as long as it was when he started. So let's say Boris was 4 years old and his tail falls off. When he turns 5, he'll only have a 1-year-old tail. So his tail never catches back up to his body. Now, legless lizards actually make pretty decent pets. They're very entertaining and they're cool to watch. They're pretty hardy, and their lifespan is actually surprisingly long, 20 to 30 years a legless lizard can live. So that's pretty long lifespan. Legless lizards are carnivores. Their diet consists primarily of meat. They have powerful jaws, and these powerful jaws allow them to eat their favorite food, which is snails. Can you imagine eating a snail with that hard shell? They must have really powerful jaws. People actually benefit from legless lizards being in the environment because they are naturally able to keep the pest under control since they primarily eat insects. All right, guys, that's about all I have here for Boris. Let's move on and see what our next animal is going to be.
For our next animal, you can actually find some species or version of this animal on up to 4 continents. But the biggest species is found in Europe. Do you know what this animal is?
A really big, is it a mammal?
It's a mammal, and it can be, in Europe, it can be the size of a dinner plate.
I bet you're talking about the hedgehog.
I am. So the hedgehog can actually be found in 4 continents. It can be found in Asia, Africa, Europe, and the teneric, which is a subspecies of the hedgehog, can be found in Australia. And while the European hedgehog is really cool and really big, that's not my friend that I have today. The one that I have is the smallest. Can you guess where that's from?
The smallest hedgehog?
Mm-hmm.
The African pygmy hedgehog.
That's right. That's right. It's the African pygmy hedgehog. This is Hedgie, and we're going to put him right there next to Malawi because they can live all over Africa. And while he's the smallest breed of hedgehog, most hedgehogs look pretty similar to him. So this is Hedgie. He's an African pygmy hedgehog. This is the most common breed of hedgehog that you'll find in the pet trade, which is actually how we came about Hedgie. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is this not just a porcupine? But it's not. Hedgehogs and porcupines are actually not even related. But they both have one distinctive quality. Can you guess what that is? It's these lovely quills. They have up to 6,000 quills on their back. But unlike the porcupine that can stick their prey with their quills, Hedgie can't do that. His quills are stuck in his back and only come out when he sheds as a baby. So he loses all those baby quills like you would lose your baby teeth. And then his adult quills come in. And then sometimes they fall out like hair breaking off, because that's basically what they are, is compressed hair. It's called keratin. And they're actually hollow inside, so they don't have poison or anything in them. These quills have a super special purpose. They help protect him from his predators. He doesn't really have sharp teeth or sharp claws to help protect him, so these quills are all that he has. When he needs to, he rolls up in a big ball, and all the spines go in every direction, and that protects him from predators like African lions and hyenas. He hunts at night, and so this little nose of his that keeps going, he uses that to help find insects, which he loves. Ugh, I'd never want to eat a cricket, but he loves those. And an animal that eats insects is called an insectivore. He doesn't just eat insects, he eats fruits and vegetables and whatever he can find along the forest floor. But for the most part, he eats a lot of insects every single night. And he just walks and walks just like he's doing right now. Another interesting thing about hedgehogs is that they're actually called hoglets as babies. Hoglets as babies are sold a lot in the pet trade because they make pretty good pets. They live only about 6 to 10 years in captivity, and so a lot of people find them super interesting. So even though he has these really cool quills, he also has hair underneath. And that means that he's a mammal because his babies are born alive. Since Hedgie's getting a little bit restless, I'm going to go ahead and move on with the next animal. Say bye, Hedgie. For our next animal, we're going to travel all the way to the Savannah Desert. Let's see what Celia has.
How about these two girls?
Here we have some Savannah kittens right from the Savannah Desert in Africa. So here with me, I have Chisomo, which means grace in Chichewa.
And this is Sierra, because she actually came from a breeder in the Sierra Mountains.
So these guys are just kittens, but they're actually a descendant of the serval cat in Africa. They may just look like kittens now, but they actually have some crazy instincts that are derived from the serval cat in Africa.
How do you get a Savannah cat, Caroline?
Well, that's a good question. So Savannahs, while they are a descendant of the serval cat, they were actually at one time bred with the cat itself. The Savannah is a serval and a domestic cat together. That's why they have these beautiful spots and big ears, and this one has some pretty big eyes. That's all adaptations that were coming from the wild cat from Africa.
So a serval is a wild cat that lives in Africa. And when you think about a serval, you're thinking about a cat that actually can jump 9 feet in the air and catch a bird out of the sky.
That's crazy. And these cats can actually almost do the same thing. An F1 Savannah cat can jump 8 feet into the air.
Oh my goodness. So tell me about the different way that we can classify Savannah cats.
Savannah cats are actually measured by the filial system. This is a common measurement for animals that are bred from 2 different species. We have F1 to F6, and the higher the number is, the more domestic they are. So the F1 Savannah cat is the closest to the serval cat. The F6 is the most domestic.
So Chisomo and Sierra are F5s. So they have been 5 times removed from the wild serval cat. Serval cats don't make good pets. Wouldn't be good to have in the house. Savannah cats actually act a lot more like dogs. They have a great personality, but can you get rid of the wild?
Not quite.
So we can't really get the wild out of the Savannah.
Savannah cats can do a lot of the same thing that serval cats can do. So an interesting thing about Sierra is that she can chuff, just like a wild cat could. It's an interesting noise that only wild cats can make. And it was passed down to these Savannah cats. So they're able to make it as well. Not only that, but they can climb super duper high and jump just almost as high as an F1 Savannah.
Also, Savannah cats love to play in the water. A serval in the wild would like to catch fish in the water. And the Savannah cat loves to play in their water as well. They like to take baths, and they would definitely swim. A little bit different than our domestic cats. The serval is an opportunistic eater. They will eat just about anything that's small enough that they can catch. Reptiles, frogs, snakes, small rabbits. Servals have an excellent sense of smell and hearing. You know what the #1 predator for servals is, though? Humans. Unfortunately, humans have hunted servals for their fur coats. But in the wild, the jaguars and the jackals and the hyenas are a big threat to servals. How big do you think Chisomo is going to get?
So Savannah cats can actually get pretty big. Depending on how high they are on the filial system, These guys will probably not get that much that much bigger than your average overweight cat. The only difference is these Savannahs will be lean and tall, so they'll have all the weight of just a normal cat spread out through a big muscular body.
Also, if you notice their ears, a Savannah cat ears are a little bit bigger, and the higher percentage they have of serval, the bigger their ears are. A serval would definitely be nocturnal. What a treat it would be to find a serval in the wild in Africa. They probably wouldn't be any danger to humans, but it would be really cool to see them hunt. All right, Caroline, are you ready to head out and find some animals somewhere else besides Africa?
Let's go.
All right, Caroline, are you ready to travel to somewhere new and exciting?
Yes, I am.
All right, my next guy is super tricky. While he has one thing in his name, he actually started out originating somewhere totally different.
Wow.
Do you know what it could be?
I have no idea.
This is Ratatouille, the Norway rat.
Huh, so he must be from Norway.
You would think he was from Norway, but he's actually from Asia.
Then that's where I'll put him.
All right. So this guy right here is from Asia. And he has a funny name, the Norway rat, but he started out in Asia, and now rats actually can live all over the world except for Antarctica. So rats get a bad rap. I know, right? So a lot of times we think of rats as gross and dangerous because rats actually were responsible for killing millions and millions of people with the plagues, correct? Scientists have decided that there's a chance that it was really the pesky fleas that were biting the rats that caused the problem. However, most all of the different rat species originate from the original Norway rat. Now, you know, even though rats get a really bad rap and people are sometimes super scared of rats, rats are very intelligent and make really good pets. They actually bond with their owner and they're super smart. They love human interaction. They do best when kept in groups or pairs because they're very social creatures. Now, this guy right here, the only kind of downside to rats as pets is they don't live super long. The rats in captivity that have a really good diet and are super well cared for can live to be about 4 years old. That's not super long for a pet. He does have this really interesting tail. While he can't hang from his tail, he uses his tail to help himself balance, kind of like the chinchilla did. And he also has super active whiskers. Those whiskers help him feel around in the dark at night and decide where he's going. Most of the rats that are sold in pet stores are related to the Norway rats. There are some fancy rats like the Dumbo rat, and all of these animals are in one family. They're in the rodent family. Now, rodents are interesting species. Rodents actually have to continuously chew on wood or things that you give them. We give our special little treats to chew on because rodents' teeth continue to grow throughout their entire life. So they need to have things to chew on to keep their teeth gnawed down. Unfortunately, this is one of the reasons that rats are a pesky pest. Rats are actually responsible for 25% of house fires. They can come into your home, get into the walls, and chew up your wires and cause electrical fires. You know what's the best way to keep a rat away? Take away things that they would eat or nest in. Make it uninviting for the rat. Be sure that all around your doors and windows are sealed tightly so that you don't have a pesky rat problem. Keep foods stored properly. One problem rats encounter is that they actually multiply like crazy. Did you know that a mama rat can actually have, over her lifespan of average 3 years, she can actually have over 900 babies. That's kind of crazy. Rats start breeding as early as 8 weeks old. Oh my goodness. That's part of the reason why there are so many different pest problems with rats. Wild rats are opportunistic eaters, and they'll eat just about anything. That's another reason why rats get a bad rap, because you often find rats in the garbage, right? All right, guys. Well, I'm going to put up Mr. Ratatouille, and we're going to travel some more and see where our travels will take us to the next creature. All right, guys, I've got something really great for us at the end. Here, the last animal. We have one continent we haven't visited yet. Do you know what continent that is? Caroline, what continent?
Australia.
Australia, the land down under. And I have with me today a really special friend. This is Oliver. Oliver is a Bennett Wallaby. I'm going to add the Bennett Wallaby to Australia. Caroline, tell us about Oliver.
So this is Oliver, and while he may look like an animal you're probably a little bit familiar with, the kangaroo, the most popular animal in Australia, he's actually not the same thing. He's a wallaby, which is like a smaller version of the kangaroo, and they also have a little bit of a different color. Specifically, he's a Bennett's wallaby. There's lots of different types of wallaby and kangaroo, but this one is probably the most common that you'll see in zoos and places like our facility around the US. So he is a Bennett's wallaby, and that means that he's about full grown. He doesn't get quite as big as the red kangaroo. He's about 40 pounds and about 3 feet tall when he's standing up, but that doesn't keep him from jumping just as far. He can jump up to 6 feet from one area to the other. While the kangaroo can jump a little bit farther, he can jump pretty high too. So the most distinguishing feature on any marsupial is their pouch. Now this is Oliver, and he's a boy, so he doesn't have a pouch. All marsupials have a pouch. Oliver is a Bennett's wallaby, and all wallabies, all female wallabies, have pouches, just like the rest of the macropods. They all have pouches, and there's only one marsupial that doesn't live in Australia. The rest are all there. The one that doesn't actually lives in North America. It's the Virginia possum, and it has a pouch that can carry up to 20 babies in, which is a lot more than the wallaby. Traditionally, wallabies only have 1 to 2 babies a year, and those babies can stay in the pouch for the whole first year, but they traditionally jump out around 8 or 9 months. Oliver here is a male wallaby. Male wallabies are called Jack, and the girl wallabies are called Jill, and the babies are Joeys. Joeys are born the size of a jelly bean, and they crawl all the way up to the pouch on their first day of life. Then they can live there for up to 12 months. And wallabies are born the size of a jelly bean, but as soon as they get about 3 or 4 months old, they start developing these really interesting features. First, they have the big back feet. Now, if you look, this entire claw right here is his foot. He has one really sharp claw that in the wild could be used to scratch a predator. He also has this really big tail. Now, this tail is really important, but it's not prehensile. He can't hang from it like some monkeys or the kinkajou. Instead, he uses it like a rudder on a boat to help keep him balanced. Another fun fact about wallabies is that they, in a group, are called a mob. And I don't think you'd want a mob coming after you, because wallabies travel in up to 40 wallabies per mob. So Oliver was getting a little bit heavy, so I asked Celia if she could come hold him for a second. But he's actually a really neat animal. See these hands on him? That's used to pick up his food. He's a herbivore, so he eats fruits, vegetables, grasses, and grains. He doesn't actually use those for defense. That's the back legs. The back legs are where he defends himself. And even though they're really sharp, he can't actually hurt you with them. They're actually so weak that most people have to hold a wallaby by its tail because that's the strongest part on its body. Unlike the other animals that we've seen today, Oliver is diurnal. That means that he's awake during the day. Most of our animals are awake at night, which means they're nocturnal, but not Oliver. He's awake just like we are during the day. Oliver is our last animal in our last continent from Australia, and he is ready to get down.
All right, guys, so let's put Oliver up. Say bye, Oliver, and we're going to do a little review. Thanks so much for joining us on our wonderful trip that we took all around the world. Fantastic creatures and where they're found. So we visited right here in our very own backyard, the North American king snake. Moved on down to Central America. We saw a kinkajou that you could find in Central America and in South America. We saw the chinchilla in the Andes Mountains in South America, and the black and white Argentinian tegu in, that's right, Argentina in South America. Traveled on over to the UK and we saw the European hedgehog, one of the largest breeds of hedgehog. What else did we find in Europe?
We saw the European legless lizard. Then we dropped down to Africa. We looked at our serval descendant, the Savannah kittens, and we looked at our African pygmy hedgehog. Then we went over to Asia and saw the Norway rat, which can be misleading. And finally, we went and saw Oliver down in Australia in the down under.
Thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate you guys out there at your home staying safe and seeing our fantastic creatures and where they're found. Don't forget to check us out on our website, animaledzucation.com. Visit us and like us on our Facebook page and our Instagram page. Don't worry, after today's show, if you want to learn a little bit more about these animals, you can look down below in the link of this YouTube video and you will find some wonderful activities for you guys to do at home. Hope you have a great day. Thanks so much for watching.
Bye.
Bye.